I think. All right, we are recording, and there's Councilwoman Williams. We have a quorum. It is now 6 o'clock, and I will call to order this special meeting of the Town Council, Town of Blackstone. I would be remiss if I did not make note of the fact that we have a brand new council tonight. Making her debut is Councilwoman Annie Scott of Ward B. Let's give her a Blackstone welcome. And good to have her with us. Of course, this is the veteran Carolyn Williams, her third council meeting, I believe. So she's a whole pro now. But our first order of business, ladies and gentlemen, on the agenda is the audit report. We have Aaron Hawkins of Robinson Farmer Cox, who's done the last several audit reports, and we're glad to have him with us tonight. Lead off tonight.
That's great service, being able to lead off tonight. Is this microphone, do I need to do anything with it? Or
I think you're fine. It's got you.
Perfect. So, thanks for having me here this evening. You know, I wasn't going to be able to make it on the Monday night meeting. I was going to have to send someone else. So I was glad to be here to talk to you. It's a pretty big day for us in the government auditing world. Today is the due date for the state of Virginia to get all the reports into the state who have to report to the state. And you're one of the towns that do because of your population. So we sent in your audit to the state earlier, and the required transmittal that has to go in to them as well. So that all happened today. Now to kind of talk about the audit process itself, and I flagged some pages to kind of go over with you that I think are some of the more important pages. But for the audit process itself, this was the first year that Jennifer Hardy took on a lot of the year-end, all of the year-end work to get ready for the audit. You know, in the past, the town has always gone through consultants to help assist with that process, and this was her first year taking it on, and it was an impressive first year for her to do that. She works really hard, and there's not a lot of people who can specialize in this type of governmental accounting and the types of knowledge that you have to do for certain things, and you know, she's an up and coming star in that field, and you guys have her right here in the town of Blackstone.
We are blessed, and we got several stars. She's certainly among them. We appreciate that, and we appreciate Jennifer.
So I'll start by saying that, and next I'll start off in the report itself, and that starts on page 1. And this is our report on the audit, which includes our opinion, which was a clean opinion. Says that the financial statements that follow this are free of any material misstatement and that they can be relied upon. On page 4 is where the management's discussion and analysis shows up, and Jennifer actually prepares this portion of it. You know, there's a lot of things that can be included in this. We call it an MD&A for short, just because it's easier. But the MD&A, you know, there's certain things that you can convey and talk about that wouldn't be appropriate to put somewhere else in the rest of these financial statements have to be in a certain format, and everything has to be a certain way. But the MD&A is where you can kind of talk about the economic factors during the year, things that went on unexpected, or it has certain comparisons from this year to the prior year, which is kind of, in my opinion, something that's probably worthwhile for anyone who's running either a town or an organization to know, okay, this is what our amounts were this year, this is what they were last year. So you can see that type of information in this MD&A. Next, I'm going to jump ahead to page number 16, and this is where we get to our fund statements for the town. And I'm going to kind of hone in on this column for the general fund. And again, this is Exhibit 3 on page 16. And the town's fund balance this year is $748,884, of which $638,000 of that is unassigned, which is a good number. I've stood up here in the past, probably 2 or 3 years ago, and said, you don't have a number there that's a very good number. You need that number to go up and be a bigger number. And it's done that slowly but surely. I think last year it was not. I think I can turn the page. I can turn the next page and look and see what it was last year. Last year it was $276,000 on Exhibit 5.
Wow.
You can see it went from 276 up to 748.
Very good.
But the sorry.
It doesn't include utility account. Or
This is a
fund.
general
Yeah,
fund,
this
right.
is just general fund. This doesn't include utilities. But the key number though is on that previous page, which is the unassigned. Because you can have a fund balance, but if you have certain things that it's restricted for or committed to, that's not just available at the town's discretion. But so that unassigned number on the Exhibit 3 is really the important number. Another number I'll point out on that Exhibit 3 is there's a line called Unearned Revenue. It's got 1 million, big number, $1,726,946. And that is the ARPA money that the town got probably on the last day of the year, I guess, is when they sent all that out. And so none of it was spent yet. And so you guys got this money. You can't just record it as revenue yet until you spend it. It's kind of an accounting recognition principle.
Right.
And so it's parked there in unearned revenue until you do spend the money. So whatever portion of that you spend in FY22, you'll see revenue for that in FY22 to offset it and match it.
We're supposed to get another 1.7 in May, correct?
Well, it'll probably be June when we get it, but it's supposed to come in early summer next year.
So now I'm going to jump ahead to page 21 where you see those utility funds. And here we don't call them fund balance, we call it net position. But the net position for both of those increased as well. The electric from about 5.8 or just shy of 5.9 to a little over 6 million. And then the water and sewer from about 4.1 up to about 4.3 million.
Ask you a quick question on that page while we're there. I've been doing this a while, and I tend to look at the operating income, or loss, and water and sewer. That's about what we do every year, around $200,000-300,000. But electrical income, I call it profit. Some people disagree with that, but anyway, it's only $264,000. And last year, I recall it being around $800,000. What's the reason for the drop? Was it ice storm?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
That's a significant drop. Now I know we've had a little bit milder winters and not extreme summers.
Yeah.
We haven't had those days of 100 degrees, high 90s for 15 days in a row. That'll, put everybody in a lurch there. But that's a significant drop off under on page 21.
Yeah. I tried to go ahead.
I was just going to say very significant. I was just concerned about that.
I tried flipping back to see if I could look in that MD&A and sort of see that comparative to see if something would jump out at me, but it's still kind of those numbers are still kind of in a broad sense. I have to try to dig into some details.
I know some years, we were like, we really, Philip, you first got here, we were kind of like, we're not going to count depreciation, or, I think.
We didn't charge a lot of cutoff fees and reconnect fees there until.
No, that's true. And now one year we made about $80,000 on the reconnect. And
It's like 25%.
Probably 9 or 10 months.
Right, and so the revenues,
No, but that 25%, excuse me, was the water and sewer issue. That wasn't an electric.
correct,
Right.
correct. But we did not cut off where that revenue, we didn't see that.
Right.
We didn't see the late fees. We
That's
didn't
some
see
of it,
that
but-
For half of the fiscal year.
it could be consumption was down, but I look, the amount of electricity we buy is indicative of what we consume. We're buying it wholesale and reselling it. If we can find out, I'd just be curious. Of course, the ice storm, what we spent out of pocket have not been reimbursed yet.
I think it's $849,000, including administrative costs total.
And of that's about $500,000 or $600,000 in the light department, or is it all in the light department?
Yeah, I
I think it's more around 300,000.
That would make sense then. That would make the numbers.
I can look into that. I can do
Okay,
that.
I think that's important because that electrical system, that's a goose that lays a golden egg.
Yeah. No, for sure. And if you guys, if you need me to.
Yeah, just no rush. I know
all
you got
the
a busy
conversation
month and we got a
after.
busy night tonight, but I don't want to belabor it, but I do think that's important.
Okay. And I've only got, I think, one more page tag. And I'm going to jump way ahead to page 95. I think we had to do a federal single audit for you last year as well. I'm pretty sure we did. This year we definitely did. As you were over $750,000 and had your audit do some single compliance work, which we did over your community development block grant and then your transit grants, and found no problems to report within our federal compliance testing that we did.
Outstanding.
On the last page, and I like to point this out because it can look kind of confusing. At the top it says summary schedule of prior audit findings. Some people see this page and it's like, hey, we got to find
That
it
was
again
that
this
was
year.
last year.
But we have to do that. We have to include any prior audit findings, and that's what that is. Where we had an issue with the public hearing in FY20, and that was not a problem when we looked for the FY21 budget. And the hearing
5
date
days,
was done.
I think.
Yep.
Remember?
Any members of council have any questions of Mr. Hawkins? We've had a good, long relationship with your firm. We appreciate what you do. I do want to point out for the public, just because these are important numbers that make the wheels turn here. We budgeted $90,000 on one of our sin taxes, a cigarette tax, and this year we fell below. We only got $74,000. Lodging, which took a hit last year, we budgeted conservatively at $18,000. We made $26,000, so that shows that, you know, after the coronavirus initial shock, lodging has increased. And the meals tax, which again is large, that means more to the town of Blackstone than any other tax, more than the real estate and personal property combined, took a hit last year. Well, our town manager and staff wisely budgeted low. We anticipated $525,000 or $543,000 in the budget, and we collected $610,000. So that's getting back up to near pre-pandemic levels. So I just want to point that out. So hopefully that will continue to get back and increase.
If you go to page 12, it shows our expenditures outside the budget. Is there typically a certain amount that you guys recommend? I mean, obviously we can do appropriations and whatnot, but I mean, it says on here we were general government administration and public works for $45,000, and then $228,000 over budget, with a total of $450,000. Now, $215,000 of that was ice storm debris.
So what I think that table is really doing is saying what the additional appropriations were that went from your original budget to your final. I don't think that's saying you went over the budget in those. I don't.
That's correct. These are the appropriations, so anytime you change the budget, they, you know, as appropriated.
All right, the police cars, some of those are USDA funded.
A significant amount of grant funds.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
But the think you're making, Mr. Nash, I believe, I think I know you pretty well, is that, you know, we do adopt a budget. If there's things come up during the year that we go over, including the, you know, we spent $10,000 on fireworks in Juneteenth, which we're glad to do, but those are things we didn't
Which out of
budget
that
last year.
$450,000, $215 of it is ice storm,
yep.
so
Yeah.
that's a fair amount.
And what you can do is, there's an Exhibit 10 in this report, which is your general fund, and that kind of summarizes everything from a budget, original budget, final budget, and actual. And there, I think you can kind of see where it gets you pretty close to the 450, 100. It's not exact, but if you go to Exhibit 10, you'll see that your total expenditures went for the original budget went from $5,257,495 to $5,694,406. So that's about, you know, 440, between 440 and 40. It's not exactly 450, 100, but
Close.
I didn't know if there was an average that you try to stay within a certain percentage.
in terms of doing appropriations,
Yeah.
well, I think appropriations need to be done as you plan to spend, as receive and spend more money. You know, if you find out you got, I think you just gave the example on a FEMA, an ice storm project, and hey, we're going to be getting $200,000 to fix some stuff through this FEMA grant. Well, we need to budget for that because that's important. Even though we know we're getting this money and ain't going to spend it, we still need to do it for what we think it's going to be.
And we've been doing the appropriations basically here lately on a monthly basis as they come up, basically, or every couple months. And that's
Nice.
something Jennifer has started, and we're glad.
Oh yeah, that used to be a thing too. When I used to work on the Blackstone Report, you guys used to kind of at the end of the year had to do some kind of supplemental appropriations to cover yourselves, but that's not a good way to track and keep track of a budget. It should be periodically, almost to a monthly basis. Hey, where are we at with our budget? And being able to adjust it and do transfers as you need to.
Any other questions, Mr. Hawkins? I want to make one other point. I'm going to shut up. Mr. Hawkins is here in the month of December. When I first became mayor, there were some years this report was not done till May. That's how vastly improved the town financial structure is. And I do want to remind, on a somber note, I hate being negative at Christmas time, we've chipped away and we've built up reserves, which is great. And the town manager and staff are being great fiscal stewards. But when people ask you, hey, you're from Blackstone, how much debt do y'all have? It used to be as high as 14 million. We're at 10.9 total debt, which is high for a town of our size. if not for electricity, we would be like a lot of other towns you drive through that are withering away. We thank you. Any other questions? We'll move on with this agenda then. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins.
Thank
We hope you have a good holiday season.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is sounds like it's something very exciting, a pre-reveal gaming. Are we revealing something tonight? Are we?
I think ultimately, what we have found, and this is a letter that was prepared by an attorney, Stephen Heretic, is an unusual name, and was provided to me by a gentleman who owned a gas station located on South Main Street, who now has gaming devices inside that gas station. Okay, we received a call and a complaint. Officer Maiden went down, indicated to them that, and told me that the machines were on. I believe you asked them to unplug them. Is that correct? Well, the owner of the establishment brought me this letter and said they're legal, and I don't have to take them out of my building. So subsequently, we have met with Leanne Watrous at our Commonwealth attorney, and I'm not altogether sure she's 100% because this is something different. This is not the skill game. And for those of you that are new, we really, in the General Assembly at the state level, struggled with things called skill gaming. And if you go into Race In or many of these other places a year or two ago, there'd be a lot of people sitting in the gas station playing these games with their chubbies and
Which they're now legal temporarily.
Injunction.
temporarily.
Right.
Okay, so I don't know if I have anything that I can tell you definitive, even after talking to Leanne Watrous. These pre-reveal games, and I don't know how they work them, but you can push a button and it can tell you what the next step result is going to be. Okay, it's an odd thing. I don't know that much about it, and I don't know if Leanne Watrous is fully briefed, or even the General Assembly of the state is fully briefed. And just this past week, as a result of the injunction that you just spoke about, where a judge granted an injunction, I guess at the request of the Sadlers.
Hermie Sadler.
Several gentlemen came to the office and said, we would like to go ahead and reopen our facility over at the Food Lion Shopping Center. They had it. It was open at one time, and if you remember, they closed it.
This is Ryan Short.
No, this is a different group.
Oh, who he sold to.
Different group.
Okay.
And I told them, I just can't tell you it's legal. I know zoning-wise, you're fine. You're in the right spot. We approved it one time before. You have a conditional use permit, hours of operation on it. I said, but are these machines legal? I do not know. And I wish I did, but I just don't know the answer to the question. I don't think our Commonwealth's attorney knows the answer to the question, or other Commonwealth's attorneys know the answer to the question. And I think we just got to wait on the state to give us guidance on it. Yes, sir.
But now, from my understanding is they are not paying any taxes on these machines either.
We had not received, Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't received recently any tax.
Because I was
Back from
talking
the
to one
state.
of the owners, and he said until the injunction was up, that they didn't have to pay any taxes. Now, I don't know if that's right or not.
I can check into it. I don't know the answer to that.
That's what they're saying.
For those of you that are new, when the state, they gave it a year moratorium, if you remember, from 20 to July 1st, 20 to 21, they gave, it wasn't a moratorium, but they gave them a grace period. And during that grace period, they were supposed to pay to the state, I believe it's $1,200 annually per machine.
It was 10% a machine per month, wasn't it, or something like that?
It was $1,200 a month.
Oh, it was a certain figure per month.
Right.
I don't think it was per month per machine, but I think it was an annual per machine of $1,200 is what I think, because we only collected probably $5,000 or $6,000 out of the thing, so it couldn't have been per month.
Those are games of skill or whatever, so now would these pre-reveal qualifies machines that can be taxed?
To me, it's this.
He's claiming
course
that
it
they
is.
are separate and distinct from skill games. He actually calls it an oblique definition. So he says the pre-reveal games are described in the actions of the General Assembly and are declared gambling, but not all outcomes. And if you read this letter, and this attorney's claiming all outcomes are revealed in these pre-reveal games. I think it's a reading by one attorney of the ins and outs of it, but I have to find out about the taxes.
Well, no matter
Yeah, that's
I
what
don't
I was
care
getting
about
ready to
anything
say.
except for the tax. I mean,
Yeah.
if it comes down to it and they're legal in the meantime, we need to be getting our money.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I think you're going to see a facility reopen in the Food Lion Shopping Center basing its claims on this, not only the injunction, but these pre-reveal games, okay? And I know that people call you guys and how come, or they may call the police department and why are they doing, or call me. And the answer is, I don't know the answer. We really need the state to kind of tell us what is and what isn't. But The state has declared pre-reveal to be gambling. But it doesn't specifically say all outcomes. And I'll read it to you real quick. And this is the key to it, I believe. It says the code further defines a gambling device in section 18.2 of the code, which provides that such devices are no less gambling devices if they indicate beforehand the definitive result of one or more operations, but not all operations. And that's on page 3, next to the last paragraph. I think that's the meat of this whole letter right there, because their claim is these machines reveal all.
Yeah, but you just said the key term is that they've deemed them gambling.
They what?
Claimants that they've deemed them.
They say they're gambling,
So,
but it says not all operations in emphasis. I think that's the key, that this attorney is saying, no, these pre-reveal games are doing all operations and they're revealing all outcomes. I think it's just a
But my question
very
is, so
narrow.
who will we find out about the taxes and stuff?
Well, I have talked to, I don't know if it's ABC anymore, because I think they were involved at one time. I gotta find out. I don't know the answer to that. And I wish I could tell you that, but I just don't know that answer. Jennifer can find out, and I'm sure the money was remitted from the Department of Taxation, but who actually is the expert at that, I don't know. Or the Commonwealth of Virginia made a EDI transfer to us, but we can find out.
Well, I'd urge all residents here and elsewhere to be very careful. And and my personal opinion is, if you have a choice between buying a bunch of lottery tickets or putting a bunch of money down here, go buy a stock or put it in a mutual fund or a stock somewhere.
Put in a retirement fund.
I mean, whatever size of money it is. But this is gonna be fought by lawyers and state agencies way above our pay grade. So as much as I hate to say it, folks, I don't believe there's anything we can do tonight.
No action tonight on it. But-
I would like to make sure it's owed to us.
We'll check the tax thing out, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously.
This could be the new frontier, though. You know, if these things proliferate, it's like Eric said, let's face it. The bottom line is if these things get popular, I mean, you could have an employee dedicated or an officer every time someone's on duty, their first thing in the morning is gonna be go check out count the machines.
Yep.
But anyway, all right, thank you. Any more questions on that? Let's move, folks. We've got the Armory. You have a Department of Environmental Quality abatement grant. You want us to
You
consider
guys had
that?
authorized us to submit a grant previously, and we submitted to the State Department of Environmental Quality a grant application to abate asbestos, lead-based paint, and remove an underground storage tank, which I believe is a heating oil tank.
This is at the Armory.
Armory.
At the Armory.
The cost estimate or the grant request at the time was based on the 2001 study performed by B&B Consultants. They gave quantities and volume and that sort of thing. Our consultant put a dollar figure to that. The state contacted us and said, we believe you need to ask for more money. Okay? So we have gone through a full-blown asbestos abatement sampling. We have all of our new data, all of our new information, and indeed, we came back with a grant application in the amount of $260,000 that has been submitted. You guys had authorized previously a 168 figure, and this new application that has been submitted it was submitted, I believe, on the 10th, is at $260,000, which includes $10,000 to reimburse us for what we've done, $8,000 for administration with the Commonwealth Regional Council.
So you need a motion by council to expand, to ratify the
I
expanded
think
grant
logically it
application.
would be, excuse me, and the last thing, at the last meeting, Eric asked me what the match was, and I didn't know. This now shows that the match is $32,000, which would be included in the construction or the renovations of the building.
I would entertain a motion by council to get discussion going, if necessary.
So moved.
Mr. Nash had moved. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll give a second to Ms. Scott. Any further discussion? This is something, is it the bigger issue in that building is asbestos and not lead paint? Would that be correct?
It's a bigger dollar figure,
Okay.
but it's fairly comparable. I think it's 125 of asbestos and 97.
97, yeah.
So cost-wise, I don't think it's a dramatic difference between the two,
So the-
but I just don't know the volumes right offhand.
What's the 8,000 to the Commonwealth Regional Council? I mean,
They do all the drawdowns and the paperwork. They prepared the original application on our behalf. Our deal with CRC is we don't pay dues. And for the newcomers, CRC is the Commonwealth Regional Council. It is the successor of what we used to call the Planning District Commission, okay? And CRC is a grant writing organization of which 7 counties, I believe, are members. We are a de facto member because we fall under the county and we don't pay dues. Nottaway County pays dues, and as a result of that, Crewe, Burkeville, and Blackstone can use their services. So it doesn't cost us anything. But if they do write grant applications for us, they ask that they be able to, if they get the grant, that they do the administration and
How
that.
much are dues typically?
The county's paying, I think, about 16,000 a year. It's almost like $1 a population, I believe.
Yeah, I
We're,
think
let me
it's-
tell you, now that we can, we're working them to death. I mean, they're going to, I mean, they're so they begged the county to join for years. We're getting our money's worth. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
We're working them to death.
And they wrote the application for the IRF fund at VUMAC.
And the ladder truck,
And they
which
did
is
allow
still in
it.
limbo, but the $1.6 million ladder truck that,
We've been using them pretty heavy, but that 8,000 would be going back to the Commonwealth Regional Council, and their offices are located in Farmville. You'll probably see them before too much longer, or at least staff members, because they really handle the redistricting for the whole region, and they have the software and all that sort of thing, so you can make changes and move lines around. So you may get a chance to meet some of those folks.
very good. We have a motion, and second, and it is over $10,000, so I'll need a roll call vote. And I believe the roll call vote this month starts with Ms. Williams, I believe. Is that correct? It is?
Sure.
Because you were last. So we'll start with Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Jennifer didn't include that in her directions. to
That's
me.
okay, we're team play here. And next is a even bigger item, this is approving the proposal from, it's recommended Commonwealth Architects, who are very familiar with the Armory, having been visiting it for years. And you see a proposal in your packet, I believe that, it's hard to put a dollar figure on it, but it looks like it's around $225,000. And then there could be some extra expenses if for extended work.
What we have an estimated budget of about $250,000 total for soft costs, okay? $250,000, and that's
just
based on a,
Commonwealth.
huh?
That's through, the
No,
architect.
no. With Commonwealth Architects, they have about $204,000 of fees. $21,000 is an agreement would be paid if we use a hospitality consultant to help us set up a kitchen and culinary kitchen. And as you know, we're trying to work with some universities on a hospitality program, okay? So 204, and I'm using a little bit round number, but 204,000 for Commonwealth. As a subcontractor is about 21,000. It was 76 when I presented it to the committee previously. It's $21,000 for those services. And then we have a $25,000 contingency. I believe we're gonna need things, there's some money in there for IT, there's some money in there for audio, acoustics and that sort of thing. But I wanted to have money set aside just in case something that we wanna add, that we can. So actually, two Commonwealth's architects and its subcontractors is $225,000, which is based on a $2 million construction budget.
So out of the 2 million, you're talking about 204 for Brian Green.
No, that's in addition to the two.
Correct.
When we did the,
Over and above the 2 million, you got 204 for Brian Green.
21.
21 for H2O hospitality, 25,000 contingency, and then 32,000 match for abatement.
No, the match is in the construction out of that $2 million. You don't have to come up with another $32,000 cash for the abatement. We just gotta show $32,000 of effort.
Gotcha.
And if you look at the total cost of that grant application, that included the full abatement. So the $32,000 would be shown as part of the $2 million of construction, or you could call it engineering. But our match is already spoken for, certainly with the construction side.
Do you see at this point, we've already know that with the 2 million that we're allocating towards the Armory, we're not gonna be able to do a commercial kitchen.
No, this says no commercial kitchen
So
because
is
not
it
only the
worth-
design work.
Is it worth doing the 21,000 to H2O hospitality?
Well, it's a lot better than the 76, which was originally put in with a 12-month retainer without billing hours at just a $6,000 lump per month, and that was not a good idea. That was not going to work. So the $21,000 I do think makes some sense in order for us to partner and couple with Averett University and Virginia State. And that individual is already doing designing a hospitality program for Virginia State, and we'd like some of that same. But remember, this is still a la carte. We can pick and choose, because you see in here, there's also some civil engineering for site work, and we could take that out and do it separately if we wanted to, okay? So it's still a la carte, but these are the fees that, obviously, we need to do the basic stuff. But 204, if we chose everything that was in that contract. We can take the civil out and do that separately, like the parking lots and all that kind of stuff. But If we're gonna get it done, we gotta,
Without a commercial kitchen, would it still be desirable for rent?
pardon?
Without a commercial kitchen, would the Armory still be desirable for wedding receptions?
Absolutely, because I think what we will do, and what is included, is a warming kitchen. So a caterer can come on site, warm food, prepare food, plate food, we'll be ready
And we
there.
get meals tax from that.
If it's prepared and consumed in the town of Blackstone, it is eligible for,
But if it's
meals tax.
prepared in the town of Blackstone and served in rice,
Not,
Blackstone gets no meals tax. Just nickels and dimes, I mean, the scheme of things, but
there will be a warming kitchen, which is probably a nicer kitchen than I have at home, but it's gonna be approximately that.
of course, no secret, folks, 2 years ago, the referendum, we decided about a year out, and the construction market has obviously gone crazy since then. There's no secret that probably what was once advertised and everybody was voting on a $2 million building, probably in all likelihood is probably closer to a $3 million building, and that shocks absolutely no one. And maybe something will happen where it does come down. And maybe these users, and just for the briefly, Mr. Van Norbeck, if you could, you talk, maybe new to some of these folks here, Virginia State and Averett, what is the vision? We're talking about a multi-use community center, but would also have some educational components.
In a perfect situation, what we would accomplish, and we've had some brief conversations, I think Averett University's president came to a presentation from Senator Warner as a response to our communications with her. I think what we would have is a facility in a perfect world that is not only operated, but managed by students who are pursuing hospitality certification degrees from Averett University or Virginia State University. So a banquet, I'm not gonna sit here and take reservations. Jennifer won't take a reservation, you guys won't, but students from Virginia State may very well be doing that. And that's my goal, is that students can come in here, prepare banquets, prepare reservations, prepare all the whole concept. Now, that's only gonna be certain nights of the month, okay? But that building also needs to be multi-purpose enough that there's still athletics, there's still classroom space. There's been discussion about some museum, Civil Rights Museum perhaps taking a wing of that or a portion of the space. So there's many other things, but in a perfect world, management of the banquet and the hospitality portion would be done by students. And we want to teach them, we want to train them. We're partnering also with Transition Solutions, a gentleman named Eric Paul, who's from Blackstone. Some of you may know him. And he's a retired police officer, I think from Prince William County, and he's back in the area. And he had his first meeting Friday night during the parade with individuals who they're trying to teach skills to post-incarceration. Folks have been released, and we're trying to do things like get them a driver's license. We're trying to do things like get them a Social Security. Those basic life skills is where we're starting, and we hope to finish as a hospitality and teaching those folks maybe a culinary skill or a certificate from Virginia State so that they can be more hireable. Post-incarceration stuff, you have a tough time getting jobs for those folks. But we also intend on working with Raj Patel, and he's agreeable that he can provide internship through his
Raj Patel is one of is BUMAC, the Blackstone Hotel Project. That's what Raj, and also, not to give props to our local high school, Nottoway High School at the Me and Nottoway Votech Center has a culinary arts program that's really taken off this year from what I've heard. So this makes sense. But the question before the council right now, I guess first and foremost.
And if I may very quickly, because we're using ARPA funds, I can't say it's a narrow scope because it's pretty broad, but it has to meet one of the criteria for pandemic relief, okay? And part of that pandemic relief is assistance to the tourism, hospitality industry. And that's one of the line items, and that's the one we're focusing on. But it'll also have an educational component. It'll have basketball. It'll have all those kinds of things that people could rent the building for, concerts, farmers market, whatever you want to do, okay?
Billy had mentioned, the mayor, sorry.
Excuse me, Bob.
Mentioned that the price tag could easily be $3 million, but we still in hopes that we'll apply for grants and.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I
Yes.
hope we're going to grant it to death and get anything we can.
You know we always do.
Well, very innovative, and the canal manager's made a lot of connections that would never even popped up on my radar screen. And I commend you and your staff for that. I guess the big question, though, folks, this is the first big step. A year ago, the folks Blackstone voted. This would be the first big step financially.
And so you know, we did do an interview process. We had 6 applications. There were 6 submittals to our request for proposals. We interviewed 3, Mr. Miller, Eric Nash, myself, and a lady named Kathy Wooten, who's on a I guess, a citizens or interested citizens committee that's been working with the Armory for years, probably
Yes.
7, 8 years at least. She sat on the committee, and this was the firm that was the highest ranked of the 3 that we interviewed. And
Do you recommend going, you said à la carte, do you recommend just doing the 204 and the
I would do the full amount.
full amount?
I would do the full amount as presented, but I think I'm not going to be necessarily by myself. I think we need to sit down and hash these things out because they've given us a couple of options in here about design, bid, build.
They did.
And then they have some contractor, different
But
ideas.
they don't recommend, I thought design, my wife, she said, you know, she works in that type of field. She said, do design, build, it'll save you a lot of money. But they recommend not doing that.
They recommend, gosh, what is the name of that thing? Construction Manager at Risk Model. Don't ask me what that is, but
Yeah.
I think that there's some committee work. Maybe it's building and grounds, maybe it's somebody else, but maybe sitting down and hashing some of these things out exactly how we want to go about doing it.
Yeah, it's, well,
In hopes to squash, I'm sure a lot have heard the rumor that with the turnover on council, it's been a lot of talk of that, oh, this new council is gonna dump the Armory project and all that, so, I mean, it would be good just, and I'll make the motion to approve the services with Brian Green, in the full amount, and then we'll go from that point.
It's actually an agreement with
asking for
Commonwealth
how much for the-
Architects. If
Commonwealth
the motion
Architects,
can
right,
reflect
yeah.
that Brian is the principal or the assigned architect or project manager.
And the total amount is how much?
It could run as high as $250,000.
would you, someone take Mr. Nash's temperature to see if he's feeling okay?
Just people have been saying, oh,
You are
just
correct.
because certain
You
ones
are correct.
gone, they're gonna, it's
It
not
would
the
warm my
truth.
heart if Mr. Miller were to second that
It
motion.
is not the truth.
I second.
Oh my goodness, it's Christmas, folks. It is Christmas. One other point. You know, we've had some projects in Blackstone that were design build that didn't always end up with the best result.
I think
Cheap
we've
prices
had some
first, but
design
then
build.
issues later on.
What is design build?
Design build is instead of having an architect sit down and draw up a set of plans, bid it, award the bid and build it, you have proposals where contractors
They come
bring
in
in
with
their
drawings,
design
hand
team.
drawn, say, well, I can do this thing for you for $1.4 million.
They come in and cut corners so
Right.
they can be the low bidder.
Right.
The fire station had a lot of issues.
Yeah,
That was,
and our water plant, we've replaced a significant amount of the inner workings. The product that was put in didn't last
Right.
as long as it needed to.
If this is going to be the crown jewel, which I believe it will be, this is the step we need to take. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We will have a roll call vote, starting with Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Our next item on the agenda, folks, this is redistricting, and just to give you a little briefing, Blackstone and all the counties in Virginia and all towns over 3,500 that have a district system or award system have to draw new lines, and the town manager had recommended I appoint a committee. Due to the nature of redistricting, I think it's important that it be a committee of the whole, because, or certainly all the ward reps, because, and one thing I'd like to just throw out there for discussion, you don't have to answer this tonight unless you want to, but I think normally you start at a consensus where, you know, let's see, you're moving lines, is it the general consensus that when at all possible, current council members would remain in their current ward, not necessarily the at-large reps, but the ward reps? Are y'all willing to say, we'll just let the cookie crumble where it will, and we'll draw lines no matter what? If that means that Mr. Miller or Ms. Jones get in the same ward, then so be it. Normally, the local government bodies I cover in my main job, they normally have a ladies and gentlemen agreement that, look, we're gonna try to draw compact and contiguous districts and keep the current incumbents in those districts,
And the polling place.
and the polling place as well.
I think so.
Does anybody object to that? Normally, that's how it's done. There is a wrinkle here, though, folks, and I know this is very important. Our next elections are not gonna be in May. For example, Ward C, Mr. Nash. In past elections, you vote for him at the rescue squad station.
I'm B.
I'm sorry, you are B. Mr. Colonel Tom. But because the election is being moved to the fall, there's gonna be two places you go vote. If you vote in a congressional election, you're gonna vote either at the police station or the primary school, and you're gonna walk in there just like we did during the presidential election. They're gonna say, oh, okay, you're John Smith, you live in Ward D, here's a Ward D ballot. We've gotta make sure that the Justice Department is okay with the fact that the precinct For example, where's Mr. Miller's precinct, Ward A in a town
Ward A.
election? Where, in the last, when people voted for you, they voted for you,
At the school.
no, they voted for you over here, didn't they?
No, they voted for me at the school.
I think it's at Yvonne's building, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
At the school.
But see, they would not be doing that in November election.
No.
And the court order that ordered the voting rights suit that was so historic said, the judge said that the precinct shall be in those wards. And that will not be the case based on the new state law. Because we're gonna be voting in November. We're gonna be voting in a congressional election. So,
Do.
right, so I'm gonna appoint the committee of the whole and ask staff to, as soon as the CRC can get down here with the lines, we've seen some suggestions. We've had a population decline, some wards, I think there's 3 wards that we've really gotta move some lines to get the right number of people.
I don't fully agree with some of those population declines.
I don't either.
Don't either.
And they changed, some of the things are gonna make it difficult. They changed the census blocks. And you can't split a census block. You've
Right.
gotta, if you look at what we sent you and you can blow it up, it has little numbers in it with the number of people in that particular census block. So you have to work around those. And that, they've changed some of that, and that's gonna make it a little trickier this time. Because there's census blocks now that have 90 or 100 people in them.
Right.
And it's hard to balance other
Can't,
districts.
if it
with
says
that.
90, you can't say I just need 45 and cut it, you've gotta take the whole 90 somewhere.
You gotta take the whole 90.
And that judge's ruling also, Judge Robert Murhidge in 1987, 86 ruled this also. His ruling, when he wrote his opinion, and I know because I wrote my senior thesis on it, it's not just black majority district. Because normally, for some reason, black voting participation is normally lower. And it may not be in November. He preferred that each district be 60% or greater minority. In Blackstone, we've been able to achieve that. I'm not sure that's gonna be attainable without, with the new rules on census blocks.
Well,
You can't just go, well, let's see who lives there and split that neighborhood. You can't do it that way.
you gotta use the census blocks as they're presented, and you've gotta include the full census block in a particular ward.
When you say
When is the
census block,
paperwork
is that
coming down?
a person that went around?
And they changed them from previous because the one that I'm speaking of primarily is 10th Street. And if you look at what I sent out to everybody, that was CRC had just taken a stab at that thing. And it created an island that was gonna stay in B, Tom
With
District.
no connectivity to the other part of B. It was gonna be,
Because-
like, basically you have 2 Ward Bs.
There was such a large census block assigned to areas like 10th Street, Westwood Drive, all that sort of thing. If you look at that map, and that was moving into Christine, now Annie's district. So you were creating islands. That, I don't think that's,
The population is
compact
so
and
small
of
in those
community.
because that block that I saw, the isolation, may had 10 residents in it. I mean, but
And landmass wise, I believe Ward E is by far the geographic largest ward, but a lot of your properties out on
It's the
Northwest
industrial
Avenue,
park out there.
industrial park out that way. So tonight I'm gonna appoint the committee, the whole, the entire council,
Good.
and ask that we get rolling on this, because we've gotta get rolling with the CRC early 2022.
let's expect early in January, maybe we get together
Right.
with CRC.
Well, when we supposed to be
holiday.
having
We're gonna have a work session early January, which will come up later on the agenda. The next item before you, ladies and gentlemen, is a county weatherization request. Is a letter from our community development director.
We wanted to
Chastity
make
Bryant.
sure you were in the loop in case you heard or it came up as an agenda item with the county. The county has had projects with Department of Housing and Community Development like we have now. They haven't done one in some time that I can recall. But as we do, if you remember, everybody up until this past year had to make a monthly payment based on their income. And that money goes back into what we call program income, okay? We keep ours, and we've spent ours. I mean, we continuously are putting bathrooms on houses. We're continuously putting handicap showers in, doing all those kinds of things. And I know the county has an appreciable amount in their program income. I don't know if it's called a fund or an account or line item. And we've asked for $50,000 of that because we are Nottaway County residents as well. And we presented this letter to Ted Costin and asking that the Board of Supervisors act to give us up to $50,000, which will be specific to weatherization projects. Because this money, I think, that's just sitting and not being used.
Tomorrow night. So, are you seeking action from the council?
No,
tonight?
I'm not, but I do want you to know that we've made this request to the county. There's no action. I don't think until we hear back from the county that there needs to be any action to receive or accept. But we are interested in expanding our weatherization. As you know, part of the reason that we're lower on cash on weatherization projects is because the state declared last year that people don't have to make the payments anymore.
Right.
Pandemic. That could change. But as it stands right now, there's no more revenues coming in. We spent it. And we just finished a handicap bathroom on Broad Street. We just finished a handicap bathroom on Birch Street. We intend,
But weatherization, they're not paying that back either?
weatherization is town money. Yes, they are paying that back. But the program income from these Fall Street, Taylor's Bottom, East End, all
Or
that,
they just halted it?
they just halted. The deed of trust is still recorded at the courthouse and is not released. So if the property is sold, the town would then still recover that portion of the principal that hadn't
Or
been
they could
paid.
come back up and say, all right, now you need to start making payments again.
Or a new governor may come back and have a new DHCD director, and
My understanding, they had forgiven it all.
no, it is not forgiven because the deed of trust remains in place at the courthouse. So, but the monthly payment has not been required, I guess since June? Is that- May.
And I know y'all, I hate to be a broken record, but just want people to know that, the town of Blackstone does sell a lot of electricity, but what we do, and other towns don't do this, and I don't think Dominion does this, we take profits and try to take other money and help our residents weatherize their houses. We don't have to do it, but I think it's important to realize we try to help as many people as we can. We do things that a lot of governments don't do, either because they choose not to do it or they can't afford to do it, so.
And I will point out to this is for homeowners only,
Right.
okay?
Not-
Homeowners only, and this must be paid back. This is not one of those where you don't make your monthly payments because it's local funds, just like our weatherization program. That money comes back to us every month, and we can do another house, or we can put insulation or windows in someone else's home. So this, if the county were to pay it, it would be collected by us and can either be paid back to the county directly, or we can keep it, but I would dare say the county would like it back. So it's really a loan to the town, and then we would collect it back, but it's not dollar for dollar. Keep in mind, if you have a home with $50,000 of work done to it, keep in mind, they take it for 10 years, they put a deed of trust on it, divide it up into 120 payments, okay? And your payment may be $375, but because you're on Social Security, and your income is very low, you only pay a portion based on your ability to pay. So what we would get back, even in weatherization, isn't the full amount, it's that portion based on the resident's income. So we wouldn't give the county back $50,000, it would be that portion that we received back.
All right, very good. You have that under informational. Good work, staff. Our next, you're being asked by the town manager to award some bids on pad-mounted transformers.
I must say, I'm asking you to ratify a decision that I have made. We, in order to provide upgraded service to Wilkerson Aircraft Tire and to ViewMac, and to have one spare on site for said purposes, we have bid out transformers. You have two prices in there, it may be confusing.
Right.
The actual purchase price is $49,000. But we base our awards on evaluated price, which is the cost and the efficiency of the transformer over a period of time. And the low bidder, I believe, is USA, if I'm not mistaken, WEG Transformers USA, in the amount of $49,243, and that's what the purchase order is. But the evaluated cost, total operating cost over the life that was used by the consultant is $75,000, or $75,026.29. The next lowest bidder was Annixter. They base bid was $52,949, and their evaluated cost was higher as well. I am requesting, and sadly, these have 48-week lead time. Okay, we won't get these until the fall next year.
Wow. Need a motion to ratify the town staff's purchase.
But so you know,
Morgan's move, Mr. Nash, second.
we are able to provide the services required, and we are gonna borrow a transformer, or buy a one of these is gonna replace a transformer the town of or city of Culpeper is gonna give us,
That's great.
and they're helping us out, so we'll be able to provide UMAC what they need, we'll be able to provide Wilkerson Tire what they need, but one of these transformers is gonna end up on a truck going back up to Culpeper.
What makes these transformers special? I would just think for the average layman out here listening that we electrical department would have transformers.
These are pad mounted
So
transformers.
they're just able to carry more load? Is that what the
Oh,
deal?
these are like 750 kV. These
Okay.
are big boys. These
Okay.
These are large pad
Gotcha.
transformers, probably comparable to what you see at the nursing home.
We need a roll call vote on Mr. Morgan's motion. We'll start with Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 6-0. And we're getting on along with our agenda. We have a subdivision request, which I believe is just informational. Do we have to approve
Nope,
this?
you gotta vote on it.
have to
Subdivision
vote on it.
ordinance, and this may be the first subdivision I've done since I've been here in 10 years.
Yeah, same here.
This is on Leicester Street. This is not directly across from your home, but pretty darn close. There was an approval, gosh, probably 3 or 4 years ago. Frankie Williamson came to us, and he was a buyer of the property. He bought it from Miss Hardaway, lives up at the corner on Birch Street. He bought the property from Miss Hardaway, and he asked it to be rezoned R3, which would permit multifamily housing. And if you look at the map, you have this little brown square. And this map does reflect that zoning change that was done. It was R2, which didn't allow multifamily. It allows two-family and townhouses, but not multifamily. But it was rezoned as Frankie requested. And I think he was gonna put up to 77 units at that time, if I'm not mistaken. The property has subsequently been sold again. The new owners have decided they don't wanna pursue multifamily. They wanna put 6 single-family homes, modular homes on the property. In order to do so, you don't have to subdivide for multifamily, but you do have to subdivide for an individual home, okay? This is the layout, and this is the proposed Leicester Street subdivision. There's a few notes and a little bit of cleanup and a signature space, a couple things that the surveyor needs to do. And these meet the minimum standards of the town of Blackstone.
So it does comply. The
It's
planning
compliant.
commission did recommend approval, did they not?
They did recommend approval.
So that basically, folks, it would be a standard motion. Am I looking at 6 homes here, basically?
6 homes,
Six
6
homes?
single-family homes.
All access off of Leicester Street only, isn't that correct?
Yep, the original request was for Powell Street to
Right,
be
we-
used, but I think we learned our lesson about Powell Street, so I declined to,
Yes, we did. That was smart, very good. I need a motion to approve the subdivision as presented. Is there a second to Ms. Jones's motion?
I second the motion.
Give the second to Mr. Nash. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. And now we're getting into, Christmas cheer. We have some, there's been talk of using some of our ARPA money, I believe, for bonuses, and I'm gonna let the finance director take this.
So, I think I first brought this to you in August. We actually did a public hearing for this same
We
issue,
did.
but for the new people, I'll kind of recap. So, Nottaway County received CARES money, and they were able to distribute that different ways. You've heard ARPA. We received ARPA money. We got it in 2 troughs, I guess how you say it. We received $3.453 billion. I'm asking you to allocate 1.7% of $3.4 million to the employees that worked during COVID. Because this ARPA money allows us to thank employees that were not eligible for hazard pay under CARES. ARPA is the only one that gives the localities the flexibility to do that. You're able to give up to $13 more an hour for premium pay for your lower paid employees for a certain amount of time, or you can give a one-time bonus up to $25,000. I'm asking you to give your employees that worked during 2020, during the heightened risk, when the governor shut down, we all came to work. We still handled, the trash was still picked up, payments were still processed, grants were still applied for. We still had council meetings.
We did.
So I'm asking for 1,000 for full-time and 500 for part-time. It has been released though, like I said, I brought this to you in August. Well, recently in December, I believe, state police officers received 5,000 from the state, and then the sheriff deputies, they received 3. Like I said, if I would have known that, but people are just now reporting what they're using the ARPA money for, so I can't really give you a big comparison. I do know Nottaway County last year gave their employees a $1,000 bonus who worked
did.
through COVID.
Also the school too, that's correct.
And we did not do that because we were eligible under CARES to get anything like that, but we are eligible now, and I'm coming to you to ask for, got my total.
58,000.
58,000.
58,000, and that, I just wanna reiterate, that is for employees that worked during 2020, during the heightened risk.
How about, are there any employees for the town that worked last year that are no longer employed by the
I
town?
took them off the list.
Okay, so they would not be getting it?
Correct.
Okay, only current employees who worked last year during COVID.
Correct.
Well, I will say, it's hard to believe, but 18 months ago, we didn't know a lot about the virus, and we thought that, touching a counter, you could get it. Now we know mainly it's the droplets. And, of course, we have a vaccine now, but those were scary times. I remember riding down Main Street on a Friday night at 6 o'clock to go get my pizza from Brothers Pizza and not saw another vehicle as I crested the post office. And I was like, man, this is doomsday. This is going to be something we see a movie about one day. And those are bleak times. So, council, what is your pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we pay, the full-time employees one-time bonus of $1,000, part-time $500.
And we'll give the second to Ms. Jones. Any discussion?
And I would like that to be take-home pay, if you don't mind.
You'd like that to be net?
Correct.
not just
if
gross.
you allow it.
So
Correct.
with that 50, so that 58,
Still won't go above my original 60,000 that I had originally budgeted and advertised, but, if I can fall in line with what was already held at the public hearing, I'd like them to take home the 1,000.
that's gonna raise that number significantly though. I mean,
How much is that gonna raise it?
about 80, 85, I'm guessing, somewhere in there. I know some businesses that give $1,000 net bonus at Christmas, and they write the check for $1,300 and some dollars to do that. Kid you not.
It'll be over 30%.
Yeah. So you're looking at
That's
probably
up to
the
you
60,
guys.
let's say 58,000, 60,000. You're talking about probably up to 90,000.
Okay. But
Now, you stand by that? You're willing to amend your motion to include that figure net take home pay, not gross.
yeah,
You want to
Net
second it?
take home.
Okay. All right. If you could buy money, just let the council know what that number was. It's just basic math. Council, any other discussion?
I'm gonna be very quiet.
Your silence is speaking volumes already, Mr. Nash. We need a roll call vote. No.
I will say that this went to committee and it was never discussed for that purpose, so I just called for the question.
We went to the committee more than once, didn't we?
yes.
And it never got discussed.
But it also
It never got
kicked-
killed either.
It got kicked
You know,
back
we-
to us
we-
too.
We struck
then
several
we sent
things
it
off
up.
the ARPA list, but we didn't strike this, and so.
Well, if other communities are doing it for their workers, why can't we do it for ours?
I agree, but this is the general thinking, and I love our employees, and it has nothing to do about our own employees, but it has to do with the fact that just because the government gives money out, doesn't mean that us as citizens have to
Well, it
blow
wasn't
it.
just giving money out, it was giving money out to employees who came and took your trash off, who made sure your electricity was running, who made sure town
business.
business.
But
I
they don't-
continue to work.
But they did
The
not
paper
work for the
continues.
town.
You're
And then
private-
also,
you're
my
private
thing
entity.
about this is, you got town employees that go out here every day, bust their hind parts, and these people don't live like everybody else. They don't have that luxury. So I feel that by the town doing this, it's showing the employees that you appreciate them and you care for them.
I think it's a great, I think all good points have been made, and I think there are some private sector folks that do have it, they're blessed. And there are some private sector folks that are, having to cut every corner they can. But like I said, you let trash go unpicked up, not picked up in Blackstone for 1 week, and you see what happens. Or all of a sudden say, where the police? So they took the week off. That's the 365, 24/7. The men in blue, men and women in blue. So just men in blue right now.
So we can continue to vote.
Yep. So I'm going to ask for a roll call vote, starting with Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Nay.
All right.
Motion carries 5-1.
Thank you.
Thank you all. These are tough decisions. Like I said, we're not always unanimous, but we have good discussion. And I thank everybody that did contribute to that discussion. I want to thank our staff, the staff that's here. Hey, I've learned a lot in 15 years. And I tell you one thing, 15 years ago, I was one that said, public sector got all the breaks, blah, blah, blah. There are some perks, no doubt. But I can tell you now, you're scrutinized, and any little misstep or perceived misstep, it's up. And with social media, I couldn't do it. I could not do what y'all do, I know. And great job on traffic enforcement. I want to say this too publicly while we're here. I hear people say, man, with the police are pulling people. I know what you're pulling people for. And you're pulling people for way over the speed limit, and you're giving way more warnings and tickets. And if anybody has a problem with a traffic stop, please come see me first. Because I can tell you now, I'm going through this community action police report with a fine-tooth comb. I'll put Blackstone up against anybody. So I want to just say that. And people say, why did it take two police officers to pull over somebody? For their safety. When we have the officers to do it, that's why we do it. It's not because it took two people to make a traffic stop. It's because we want to make sure that our men are safe. Doesn't always happen that way.
It takes one time for.
Correct.
someone
There is
to
no
do
routine
something
call
bad.
anymore. We've learned that the hard way. What else we got? We got closed session tonight? Oh, we got two more things. Well, I want to set a date, and I want you to give you till Monday to set your calendar. I want to propose either Wednesday evening, January 5th, should be no more than an hour. I want or Saturday, January 8th, Saturday morning, no more than an hour or two, where everybody comes in and says, look, for the coming year, these are my top 3 goals. Not 5, not 7. These are the most important things. So this council